Hi everyone, happy Pride Month. My name is Amik and today we will be having one of our first lives in honor of Pride with one of my friends, Guneesha. And so I will wait for her to enter this live. But yeah, super excited for this. And alright, I think I sent a request for Guneesha to join. Okay. Hi. Long time no see.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm having so many technical issues. I really thought I would have known what to do and live my life on my fucking phone, and then this happened. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. Hi, thank you so much for being on our live today. How are you, Guneesha?
I'm good. I'm excited. Thank you for having me. Honestly, this is the type of conversation that I think we should do more often. So I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I'm just so surprised that we never really had this sort of conversation before, even though we like Zoom a lot. So I'm really excited for this and getting to even know you better. But can you just introduce yourself a little bit for our viewers?
So my name is Guneesha. I'm an international student from India, and I know Amik because we both go to Berkeley. I study business at Haas and environmental studies. Love all nerdy things. I like reading, I like journaling, and a lot of TikTok. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about my journey with sexuality and Pride Month and all of that jazz.
Definitely. And I'm super excited to have you on our live series. So my first question for you is, when did you realize your sexuality?
So for me, it was in the middle of my undergrad, 2 years ago. I think it was, I think it's difficult to say that I realized it and like I found it and that was it. Because I don't think it's just like a moment or like, you know, a switch. But it's a journey, and I think I sort of knew even when I was a kid. I was always an ally. I was always really excited about showing up for people, showing support, helping them express who they really are and be the version of themselves that they're most comfortable being. And that's kind of how I started learning about different intersectional identities. And then when I came to Berkeley, I was fortunate enough to have a safe space where I could figure out my own identity and try things that I hadn't tried before without fear of judgment, without fear of my physical safety, which is a big deal. It was about 2 years ago. Freshman year was a big roller coaster for Guneesha.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that as well. So you mentioned like, you know, being on campus made like a huge difference. Can you expand a little bit? Like, do you think it was specifically being, because I think Berkeley is also a very like liberal sort of campus and there's a very different vibe compared to like other campuses, but do you think that made a difference in like in general? Yeah, do you want to just talk a little bit about that experience? Yeah.
Yes, oh my god. Berkeley is amazing at this stuff, right? Because Berkeley is one of those places where you could be whoever you are. You could be very comfortable in your skin and people wouldn't shame you for it, or people wouldn't try and put you in danger for it. And I don't think a lot of people can say that about their college experiences. And I'm an international student, right? So when I was coming to Berkeley, I didn't know any of this. And I just sort of dived headfirst into it and hoped it would work out. And Berkeley was loving to me. It helped me figure out all of the things that I needed to and process everything that I was trying to process in a very safe environment. I found people who could relate to my experiences, who were also just in the middle of getting to know themselves, you know, very deeply entwined in that process, not necessarily reaching a definitive answer or an end that very specifically says, I am this specific label, right?
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm grateful for it. There's so much that Berkeley has given to me that I cannot genuinely complain about my experience at Cal.
Definitely. And like as a student, were there specific resources like clubs, maybe like scholarships, like anything that really supported you as a student?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Queer Asians at Cal, plug,
Mm-hmm.
a great club. I joined like a Discord server that was an amazing community, especially in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different resources and centers on campus you could go to, but within my major at Haas, I think I found a lot of great resources and community in just DEI, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, just as a passion, you know, as
Yeah.
things that other Haas students were excited about, as groups on campus that would just give underrepresented groups a voice to say what they really cared about.
Yeah.
I like I like that we can go beyond the barriers that are very common at Haas, like but they're very common in business school in general. At Haas,
Yeah.
Haas, it allows you to be yourself in an unrestricted manner, which I don't think a lot of my friends who went to different business schools around the world could say, especially those who went to Indian colleges. So there's definitely pockets of this incredible community, incredible resources within majors and within different spaces on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And clubs, of course, which are great.
Yeah. No, I think like just I'm not a business student, but I've noticed that like there are definitely a lot of different types of people who join different majors, and I think it's so important, especially in the realm of business and Haas itself, that there's more diversity. And I think it's great that you were also like you are a chair of diversity and inclusion, and like having that sort of role allows you to help with that diversification. I think that's amazing. And you mentioned like your friends in India may not have had such a supportive community and like all of that. So is it different? Because even like you being in Delhi right now, do you see like some sort of differences when it comes to like expressing your sexuality?
I think so. I think growing up, I was taught about all of this in a very open manner. I knew that people found different ways of expressing themselves beyond a binary that I thought was the most common way to go about it, right? So it's not just straight or gay. It's a spectrum, right? So I learned about all of that, and I enjoyed learning about it, but I couldn't necessarily practice it or explore it in the way that I could in the Bay Area. And I don't even know if that's true for other parts of America. Like, I know that, San Francisco is just a great place to be, and there's so many people who would understand my experiences in that area. I really don't think that that's true for Indian communities at all.
Yeah.
Like, I know that there's a huge shift, and there's people who are getting more and more excited about this stuff, who are trying to talk to the youth of India in a way that would make them feel comfortable about embracing their sexuality, whatever it may be. But it's still very taboo, it's still very difficult. And there's many people who would be allies, who would, at least on the face of it, be allies, but still hope that it wasn't their own son or daughter who ended up being not heterosexual, right? As long as it's the neighbor's kid or it's your friend's kid, it's fine. So there's there's a barrier still to being completely open and honest and being very comfortable in your skin here.
But
sure. Berkeley helped me. It helped me explore that.
For sure. And like, do you see these sorts of like this sort of mindset kind of immigrating or translating in the Berkeley community when you're interacting with like South Asian groups, or like even being part of like the Punjabi community, for example, on Berkeley's campus?
Yes. I mean, I don't want to make broad generalizations. There's tons of people at Cal who are supportive and amazing, who I can talk to about anything and never fear that they would shame me for it. But there's always a few people who are just a little more homophobic than the others, just a little more uncomfortable when you're embracing your truth, or they don't want to engage with it, they don't want to actively support it, or be associated to it. And that's fine. I'm not one to shove it down other people's throats, but not when it becomes unsafe for people of my community, right? not when someone I know, and this actually happened to one of my friends who came into Berkeley as a freshman, trying to figure out their identity, and then they got shamed for it by other international students because in India, and I think most places in Asia, you only hear the word gay as an insult or a joke, right? That's the usual connotation. And nobody really tells you that that's not okay when you're growing up.
Yeah.
Nobody really stands up to the bullies. Nobody really teaches them to not do that. I don't think I stood up to any bullies either when I was growing up because I didn't know that it was wrong. So
yeah.
when you talk to those kinds of people who were brought up in a very, very specific environment and who are a very specific product of whatever factors we are taking into consideration, it's difficult. Right? And those people exist at Cal, they exist in the Bay Area, they exist in India. They're all over. There really isn't a specific boundary that these people congregate in, right? They're everywhere. You have to be careful. It can be physically dangerous for many people, which is scary.
That is
sorry.
No, and thank you for sharing that, because a lot of the times I feel like we don't realize how especially in India, like I think there have been like a couple of, like, I'm a huge Bollywood fan, so like I've seen like a couple of movies that are more like LGBTQ like acceptance themed, but like they're not that many, firstly, and then at the same time, like it's just a little bit. I don't think that really goes to show. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's definitely a lot more to it, and like we need to talk more about it. So thank you for sharing that. And like you kind of mentioned this, but your own mindset seems to have shifted when it came to like LGBTQ acceptance. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I told you, I started off as an ally, and a very honest ally, not trying not to be performative, just trying to understand my friends and what they're experiencing, and just believing that people should be allowed to live their truth, whatever it is. So when I was in that state for the majority of my childhood, I never thought once to explore my own identity. And it's very difficult when you're in India, when you're studying to get out of the country, you know, like there's just so much happening. You're so busy all the time that you don't really get the space to stop and think and reflect. At least I didn't. I don't want to speak for anyone else's experience, but I was really busy as a kid, just doing a million things. And I never let myself get the chance to like stop and breathe and take it all in and ask questions about things that I just assumed were true. So when I went to Berkeley, I got a fresh start in that sense, right? Because I got to pick what I did and who I was friends with, and I saw a lot more. I was exposed to a lot more different kinds of people. Like, I don't know if you're aware, there's this one couple, Anjali Chakra and Sufi Malik. They're a lesbian couple. They had the most beautiful wedding, and so not only are they a same gender couple, they're also, I think one of them is Indian and one of them is Pakistani. So like there's also the Hindu-Muslim difference there. But when I started learning about them, I started watching like their videos or seeing their pictures or reading about what they wrote. I was for the first time comfortable with the idea of an intersectional identity. You know, like it was a lot of that kind of exposure combined with the space and the freedom to do whatever I want and to explore who I am. Like all of that together helped me figure out my sexuality. So I'm bisexual. I don't even think I said it the whole time, but I'm bi. And it took me a while to figure that out. And I honestly don't think that it would have happened if I didn't have all of that exposure. So like, just a huge shout out to Anjali and Sufi. Their relationship helped me figure it all out.
No, I think I've seen the aesthetics of their page, and I think it's really pretty. But that's amazing.
God,
I think that's the thing. It's so important to be able to see like people of color, people like us as well, and being so open about it, because then like you are able to be more open about it. It's more normalized, and it's like you know, a lot more conversations open up because of that. So I think that's amazing, and thank you for sharing like all of this as well. And
Yeah,
so
of course.
those are pretty much all of my questions for you. But if you have anything to add, any resources or like tips, if you may, or of like anything for anyone watching this live, is there any like sort of message you'd like to end with?
I mean, it's not anything crazy, but I do want to say that, you know, this process is not linear, right? You're trying to figure yourself out, and you will be different at different stages of your life, and that's okay. That's actually a good thing. And I also think it's important to realize that what people really want at the end of the day is love, right? Love that is pure, and it does not depend on the gender of your partner, right? It does not depend on your nationality, your sexuality, the languages that you speak, your preferences, your interests. It's love that transcends all barriers, like Anjali and Sufi, right? It doesn't matter what religions or what gender, it's real. And when it matters, like when like that kind of stuff hits you, it's just the love that matters. Like nothing else should actually get in the way, in my opinion. So if you're able to, you should give yourself the freedom to pick whoever would help you feel most loved.
That was so beautiful at the end. Like very like, yeah, no, I love that, and I think it's just wow. I think that's such a good message to end with, and like, yeah, I don't even know what else to add to that. But thank you so much.
I mean, this is it. It's Pride Month. Pride Month is all about love. So just like a quick little history thing, June is Pride Month because the Stonewall riots happened in June, I think 1969.
Oh.
And if you could read up about it, would highly recommend seeing that, like listening to the story of those people and figuring out what your definition of love is, and that love is love no matter who loves who and what their gender or sexuality is. So I hope that this helps someone out there. And if anyone on this live or anywhere on your page is struggling with this stuff, please reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a message. I'd love to talk about this stuff. Don't hesitate to reach out or get help.
Yeah. No. Yeah, Guneesha is amazing. So definitely do that. And I didn't even know that about Pride. I just assumed it was just a month. But like that's really, I love history, so I'm definitely gonna look into that more. But thank you so much for being on our live and sharing such a beautiful message, especially at the end, and in general, just talking about your own story and your own journey. I think it's always amazing to hear about, hear anything that you say in general. I love talking to you, but hearing this is great, and thank you.
Right. Thank you. I love you, Amik. And everyone, thank you so much.
Great. Bye.
Thanks for having me.